Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem. Welcome back to today's Daf Yomi. Zevachim Daf Chav Ches. We begin on Chav Zayin Amud Beis at the very last line. So it's right after the Mishnah. Savrua Oir Alya Kal Yodami. Back to the Mishnah where a kohen had a machshava of pigul. He's thinking all kinds of thoughts during the processing of the korban. For instance, he had a machshava. I'm going to, so during the shechita, he's thinking, I'm going to eat some of the basar, the flesh of the korban, outside of, Yerushalayim. That would be considered chutz l'mkaimai, outside of its place. That disqualifies the korban. Korban now is pasul. What if he thinks chutz l'zmanai? I'm going to eat the basar in a week's time, past the allowable, time period for the consumption of this korban. 3 days time, 4 days time. And the korban is not only pasul, it becomes pigul, even more severely deficient korban. In which case, if one would actually eat from the korban, even now, right today, he would be liable to kares. This applies to basar, which is meant for personal consumption. It also applies to achilas mizbeach, items which are intended for mizbeach consumption, so to speak, the fats of the korban, etc. Likewise, if he's thinking outside of the makom, I'm going to do it, outside the Beis Hamikdash, that becomes possible because it's chutz l'mkaimai. If he's thinking he's going to serve it to Mizbeach in 3 days' time, that's called chutz l'zmanai, which makes it pigul. Now the Mishnah, in one of the examples, cites a fellow who had a machshava about the oir ha'alya, the skin around the tail of the animal. Now we're assuming that we're speaking about a kevesh, a sheep, whose tail, area is meant to be offered on the Mizbeach. It's one of the items which belong on the Mizbeach. It's meant for achilas Mizbeach consumption. Nevertheless, the Mishnah says, if the kohen had in mind to personally eat the oir ha'alya, the skin around the tail, chutz l'zmanai, the korban now becomes pigul and there's kares. The question is why? You would think the machshava is only applicable on material, on items which are slated for that particular form of consumption. Meat is for people and alya is for the mizbeach. You can't mix it around. You can't think, I'm going to eat in 3 days' time something which belongs on a mizbeach. That doesn't qualify for pigul. That's going to be the question. So let's see the Gemara again. Savrua, the Bnei HaYeshiva figured, what is the status of the oir? We know the alya itself, the tail area itself, the whole fat, that belongs on the mizbeach. What about the skin around the tail? Which is a more, fleshy, meaty type of material. It's sort of a cross between flesh and hide. Now the hide of the animal, the oir, never goes on the mizbeach. What about the oir alya? Oir alya ka'alya dami. Has the same status as the alya itself. It's like the meat of the alya, in which case when it's a kevesh, when it's a sheep, just as the alya is offered on the mizbeach, likewise the skin around it. That triggers the question. So when he planned on eating the oir ha'alya in 3 days' time, he's basically diverting. He's taking something which belongs on the mizbeach, la'adam, planning it for a personal meal. Why does that constitute pigul? Amar Shmuel, it does. Even if you cross over materials, it qualifies for pigul. Hamani Reb Elazar. Mishnah reflects Reb Elazar's shita, who says you can't cross over. It is considered pigul. The Amar who says machashvan, even a machshava, which is a cross machshava, he's taking material which is meant for mizbeach and planning on having a meal with it, or vice versa. If it was meant beyond its time, if he was planning in 3 days' time, that qualifies for pigul. Machashvan me'achilas mizbeach, an item which is meant for mizbeach, and he has in mind achilas adam for personal consumption, or in the reverse. Or taking items, materials meant for personal consumption, such as the flesh of a korban, and intending it for the mizbeach, that's also pigul. It's not as we learn. The Mishnah, Zevach lechol davar she'en darke le'echol, he shechts the korban with the machshava of chutz lizmanoi. However, it relates to material which is not meant for personal consumption. It's meant for the mizbeach. Or vice versa, lahakter davar she'en darke lahakter, or he plans on offering meat to the mizbeach, which is not typically done. Although he had a mind to do it chutz lizmanoi, the korban is unaffected, kosher, because it just doesn't hold. Rabbi Lezer Paisel, he says it's possible, because he holds that even if he planned on eating something which he's not supposed to be eating, or vice versa, planned on burning on the mizbeach something which is not meant to be there, it still can become pigul. But now you came to Rabbi Lezer, so you have now established that our Mishnah is following Rabbi Lezer's shita, and that explains the halach of the oir ha'aliyah. Although it's not meant for personal consumption, but if that's what he had in mind, it can become pigul. Amos sefer. Let's proceed to the next part of the Mishnah later on, which says that it has to be intended for that personal consumption, for it to impact the korban, for the thought to have effect. It has to relate to a legal form of consumption. Zaklal. Okay, this is the rule. Kol ha'shoichet, if one does shechita, or he does kabbalah, or halacha, or zrika, so he engages in one of these primary forms of avodah with an erroneous intention, right? Kol ha'shoichet v'mkavam v'elach ma'azerik le'echol davar shadar kelech. It has to be directed. It has to be properly directed. He's thinking about basar, which is meant for personal consumption, or to burn on the mizbeach beyond its time, davar shadar kelech, something that's meant on the mizbeach. Then it becomes pigul. So you make a diuk, an inference, davar shadar kelech, in only something which is meant for consumption. Shein dar kelech, but something which is not meant for consumption, such as the tail or the tail skin, which we say is deemed like the tail. Lie, there's no pigul. Asan the Rabbanan, so that part of the Mishnah is going like the Rabbanan, and not like Rabbi Lezer, which isn't typical to have one Mishnah half and half. Reish of Rabbi Lezer, so the first part of the Mishnah, our part, is in line with Rabbi Lezer only, that you can mix and match. Very safe, and the next part is the Rabbanan, that it has to be properly categorized. Amalei says, yeah, you know what? It's not the preferred method of understanding the Mishnayos, but if it so has to be, fine. In. So again, according to this understanding, oir ha'aliyah is, so this is Shmuel Shita, that oir ha'aliyah is ka'aliyah dami. It's treated totally like the aliyah itself. So in a sheep where the aliyah belongs on a mizbeach, likewise the oir ha'aliyah. Why is there pigul? Because although he planned on eating something which he shouldn't be eating, there is pigul. Rav Huna Amar oir ha'aliyah lav ka'aliyah dami. He disagrees. He says there's no mitzvah to be makter the oir ha'aliyah on the mizbeach. And that explains the Mishnah. It's meant for personal consumption. And therefore, if you planned on eating it in a week's time, there is pigul. Omar Rava, my time with Rav Huna, where is he coming? What's the source? That the skin around the tail doesn't belong on the mizbeach. Chel boi ha'aliyah. Chel boi ha'aliyah, the fat of the aliyah. It's a limiting term, chel boi. V'loi oir ha'aliyah. Fattiness, but not the skin around it. Rav Chizda Amar l'oilam oir ha'aliyah ka'aliyah dam. Here comes the third sheet. He says, no, I hold like Shmuel. Skin around the tail is like the tail itself. So how could he think of eating it? My skin was speaking about a goat. The tail of a goat, which doesn't belong in the mizbeach. It's meant for achilas adam, in which case if he plans on eating it, there's pigul. So we have three approaches to the Mishnah. Shmuel's approach. The skin is like the tail. And despite the fact that it belongs on the mizbeach, if he should plan on eating it, there's pigul. We have Rav Huna, the skin does not belong on the Mizbeach. Rav Chisda, it does. But we're speaking about a goat in our Mishnah, where the tail, in any case, doesn't belong on the Mizbeach. Rather, it's meant for personal consumption. Now, we're going to try to explore why each position, each shita, preferred his own approach versus the other approach. Kulu, so the other two, Kishmuel Amri, you don't want to go with Shmuel's approach. Because according to him, you have to say Reish or Belezer, they say for Rabbana. The first part of the Mishnah is like Belezer, you can cross over, say for the Rabbana, they don't want to learn the Mishnah like that, because it's an unlikely, in their opinion, it's an unlikely arrangement. The other two did not agree with Rav Huna, who says the skin around the tail is not regarded like the tail. But they disagreed on that account. They're of the opinion that the skin of the tail is treated like the tail. It's like the basar. That's why they preferred avoiding that approach. And finally, Rav Chisda Matayim Amri. Why didn't the other two adopt Rav Chisda's approach? That Oyer Aliyah is in fact like the Aliyah, but there's no issue with the Oyer Aliyah now Mishnah because it's speaking about a goat. And that explains why, if he's planning on eating that skin, it's considered a machshavas pigel because it's like the basar of the Aliyah. It's like flesh. It's edible. So they didn't want to take that approach to the Mishnah. Why? Because if so, what's the point of the Mishnah? To tell you Oyer ha'aliyah ka'aliyah dami, that generally the Oyer of the Aliyah is like the Aliyah, it's like basar, it's considered edible. Tanina, we already learned that in a Mishnah elsewhere regarding the halachas of Tumah. So that animal's flesh is mitame, right, and parts Tumah. What about the skins of the animals? So typically skins are not regarded like flesh, regarding Tumah, right? Unless it's like a light skin, a fleshy skin, such as the tail skin. So it's discussed in the Mishnah and Chulin. Ve'elu, in the following cases, Sheiroi saying Kibsaran, their skins are like their flesh, regarding Tumah. And the first item is Arshat Aras Aliyah, the Aliyah skin. So why discuss this again? Rav Chisda, he responds, Istrich, no, there's a point in discussing it again. Sal Kedaitach. Perhaps I would say, Hanim lenient Tumah. When is the skin regarded like the actual flesh? Regarding Tumah, the Rachach Mitzdarf, since it's soft, it connects, it combines to with the flesh. Avalacha, but regarding the consumption of karbanis, who's to say that it's a skin, even though it's somewhat edible, but to consider that to be truly edible with respect to a machshava of pigel, that planning to eat that semi-edible material beyond the allowable time makes the carbon pigel, perhaps I wouldn't say that, because it's not primary material, primary meat material. Perhaps I can say Pasuk says the karbanis are meant to be given to the kehanim lamashcha as an expression of nobility. Ligdula, you eat it like a nobleman, like a kadesh malachim oichel, like the royalty eat. No king sits down to have his tail for a meal. So perhaps it doesn't qualify for a machshava of pigel. Having in mind to eat that doesn't really impact the carbon. Kamash Malon comes the Mishnah and says it does. So there is a point in discussing it. Here comes a kash on the opinion that Oyer ha'aliyah is like the aliyah. Hashechet sa'oila. He shechts a carbon oila, where the entire carbon is meant to be put on the mizbeach, except for the actual hide, the real thick hide that's flayed and removed, but everything else goes on the mizbeach. Everything. Bones, tails, right? So he did the shchita with a false machshava. Lahaktir kazayis mo'er shetachas aliyah chuslam kaimai. He had a mind to burn a kazayis of the aliyah skin, chuslam kaimai, outside of its domain, outside the Beis HaMikdash. Right, so that's called chutz l'mkaima, and the carbon is now pasul. There's no karas involved. But if it's chutz l'zmanai, beyond the time allowance, pigel, v'chayav on l'karas is pigel with karas. So the Gemara will make an assumption. And the only reason why we reckon with this machshava that related to the skin of the tail is because we got an oila. By an oila, everything goes in the mizbeach. Even something which is semi-skin, as long as it's regarded somewhat like regular animal material, it goes in the mizbeach, as opposed to the real hide, the thick hide that's flayed. But everything else goes in the mizbeach. More will assume that's only because it's an oila. But let's say it would be a different carbon, like a sheep, where only the actual tail, everything else is eaten. I mean, after it's flayed, right? The basar is eaten, but only the tail area with some fats, I'll put it in the mizbeach. In that type of context, perhaps the skin would not be considered part of the aliyah. So we'll see in a minute. Okay, so that's the first shita. Elazar ben Yehuda, Ish, he came from a place called Avelim. Omer, he quoted Mishum in the name of Rabbi Yaakov. V'chein, and likewise, Rabbi Shimon ben Yehuda, Ish, he came from a place called Kfar Ikus. He would quote Omer Mishum, the name of Rabbi Shimon. That's not limited to the tail skin. You have other light skins in the animal, which are somewhat fleshy, and regarded like not regarded like real skin. In which case, if he had a thought about those, chutz l'mkaima, it's pasul, chutz l'zmanai, it's pigel. Which skins are these? He says, echad oyer beis process, whether we're speaking about the skins on the bottom of the legs of the animal, which are thin, avi behimadak of a light animal, v'echad oyer harosh legel arach, or the skin around the head of a young calf, v'echad oyer shetach alya, or the skin around the tail. And likewise, all those skins which were listed by the Chacham regarding giving them the status of tumah like flesh, the following skins are like their fleshes. Lahavi, what are we including with this added, statement that we hadn't, listed before? There's one more item which was omitted. Lahavi oyer shel beis haboishes, the skin around the female area of the animal. So in all these, if he had a machshava to eat them chutz l'mkaima, it's pasul v'ein b'karas. If he had a machshava to eat them chutz l'zmanai, pigel v'cheirun l'karas. End of discussion. The fact that the Bryce focused on an oila makes it sound like the only reason why we consider the oira of the aliyah qualifying for hakrav on the mizbeach is because it's an oila. Where pretty much everything goes on the mizbeach, unless it's actually bona fide hide. But otherwise, everything goes on the mizbeach. Oila in. Aval zevach loy. But if it's any other carbon, where the flesh is meant to be consumed by the kehanim, minus some fats, minus the aliyah area, that would not cover the oir ha'aliyah, because oir ha'aliyah is not like the aliyah. Bishleim Rav Huna, Hainu diktani oir. So according to Rav Huna, it's very good. He says the oir of the aliyah doesn't go on the mizbeach together with the aliyah. Elul Rav Chizda, who says oir ha'aliyah is part of the emurim. It's like the aliyah area, which goes in the mizbeach. So why the Brisa focus on the oila to include the oira aliyah for the mizbeach? This is Zevach. Any carbon would have the same halach. Rav Chizda says Rav Chizda like this. You can say Ba'ali Shogdi, we're speaking about a tail of a goat. So only by the oila does it go on the mizbeach, but the any other carbon wouldn't have that part on the mizbeach. Or you can modify the Brisa to include any carbon as well. It's not just an oila. Zevach means all carbons. Okay, so we discussed pigel, where he had a machshava to either offer something to the mizbeach or to personally eat part of the carbon, chutz l'zmanai, beyond its prescribed time, after the expiry date. The carbon is pigel and there's karas. Mishnah speaks about planning on eating the Ur Ha'aliyah. How does that work? We have three explanations. Either we say Ur Ha'aliyah is like the Aliyah. So although the Aliyah and the surrounding skin of a keves would be offered on the Mizbeach, nevertheless, we planned on eating it. We're going like Rabbi Lezer. Even cross thoughts. Thinking about eating something which belongs on the Mizbeach qualifies for pigul. Rav Huna's approach is Ur Aliyah is not like the Aliyah, it's meant for personal consumption. And Rav Chizah says, speaking about a goat, there's no issue of the Aliyah on the Mizbeach. Okay, so back to the Mishnah. We had two categories of machshavos of psul. Either chutz l'mkaimai, he planned on serving the Mizbeach, or eating the flesh of the korban outside of its allowable, area, outside the Beis Hamikdash, or to eat the korban of a shlam outside Yerushalayim, etc. That makes the korban possible, but there's no kares involved. Whereas if it's a chutz l'zmanai, we planned on burning the fats in the Mizbeach in a couple of days' time, or we planned on eating part of the korban in a week's time, the korban is pigul. And even if one should eat it today, there's kares. So the next piece of the Gemara will source for us these two halachas. So just for simplicity's sake, let's shorten it. Chutz l'mkaimai, let's call it psul number 1, chutz l'mkaimai, a basic psul. And chutz l'zmanai is the more advanced psul. That's the pigul with the kares, that's psul number 2. How do we know these halachas? That there are two types of psulim with their respective rules and consequences. Amar Shmuel, you meant to know Trei Kroy Ksivi. Starting point here is we have two psukim discussing a similar phenomenon. One pasuk back in Parshas Tzav, V'yikra Perek Zayin, pasuk Yitches, which reads like this. Some of us have it on the side of the Gemara, which makes it easier to reference. So it reads like this: The korban should be consumed in the third day, which is beyond the expiry time. And then more later we'll learn we're not speaking about the korban which was physically left for 3 days. We're speaking about that he planned when he fashioned the korban, when he made the korban, he was planning that ahead. Lo yiratza, it doesn't work. Okay, so again the pasuk speaks about some sort of time-related, mistake. The korban is unacceptable. Lo yiratza, lo yichashev, pigul yiyah. If one eats it, avoy natisa, carries sin. That's the long pasuk. The Gemara calls it mikra aricha, long pasuk. Then we have a shorter pasuk with similar reference over in Parshas Kedoshim, Vayikra Perek Yutes pasuk Zayin, which reads simply v'ma'achal ya'achal ve'meshlishi pigul hu lo yiratza. If he eats it on the third day, there's pigul lo yiratza. It's disqualified. And again, the Gemara will learn we're not speaking about actual basa that was left over for 3 days. We're speaking about this was his intent, this was his plan, his scheme when he made the korban. So the Gemara will tell us ultimately that there, at least according to one approach, that each pasuk refers to a different type of deficiency. The long pasuk refers to deficiency number 1, the basic deficiency, which is we'll see which one is what. But one is for chutz l'mkaimai, one is for chutz l'zmanai. Okay, so let's start again. Not immediately. I'm a Shmuel Trei Kroy Ksivi. Starting point are those two psukim. Mahi, which two psukim? Amar Rabba, Shlishi is a chutz l'zmanai. He says like this. He's going to focus on that one long pasuk now, and he's sort of going to split it into two. So we have the long pasuk in Parshas Tzav, the short pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim. Now within the long pasuk in Parshas Tzav, we seem to have a reference to both types of psulim. Psul number 1, psul number 2. Mai Amar Rabba Shlishi, which is the what we find in the pasuk in Parshas Tzav, Shlishi. Zeh chutz l'zmanai. It's a time-related deficiency, chutz l'zmanai. The word pigul in that same pasuk actually is not referring to the pigul, according to our understanding. Rather, the chutz l'mkaimai, according to Shmuel, it's referring to chutz l'mkaimai Because, as Rashi says, it's an extra pasuk. Figulye, what's the point of adding that title? It's going on chuslam kaima. The pasuk concludes, "Va'nefesh hayichelas mena." If one eats from this singular, one of these two, avodah tisa, there's a grave sin, and later the Gemara will learn that there's kares. Echad leishnaim, only one of the deficiencies carry the kares penalty. Which one? Which one of the two? So chuslam zmanai. We're assuming it's referring to chuslam zmanai, which is the more severe deficiency. Umut chuslam kaima, as opposed to chuslam kaima, there's no kares. So as the Gemara who says, ve'ema, perhaps we'll go the other way. Va'nefesh hayichelas menu, one who eats from this. What's this? Chuslam kaima. Perhaps it's going on psul number 2. Umut chuslam zmanai as opposed to psul number 1. No, mistaber chuslam zmanai adav. We assume chuslam zmanai is more severe, more consequential. The pasuk because it's the first item mentioned in the pasuk, right? So we assume that's the primary, and that was in, and the chuslam kaima, which comes second, that's out. Adrab, just the opposite. The word avodah tisa, right? At the end of the pasuk, assumingly referring right back to the item mentioned, immediately previous, not going back to the beginning of the pasuk. Adrab, just the opposite. Chuslam kaima adav. Let's prefer chuslam kaima. So number 2, the samach, which is stated right near the conclusion of the pasuk, which talks about kares. El Rabbi says Abai like this. Let me explain things. Amar, he said like this. Rav or Rabba, who presented the earlier explanation, samech adatanitan. He was really relying on the following presentation of the Tana. To you, if we shift over to Parshat Kedoshim, where it says V'im ochel yo'achel b'yom hashlish. Shein talmud leimer. It's an unnecessary pasuk because we already discussed this in Parshas Tzav. Shein talmud leimer. Shein talmud leimer. Shekvar Nemer already says back in Parshas Tzav in the long pasuk V'im ochel yo'achel b'sar zevach hashlam b'yom hashlish. So what's the pasuk here coming to add? Right? We already know from Parshas Tzav that there's something called chutz lizmanai. So why discuss the third day and then time-related deficiencies again? The answer is it's not going on chutz lizmanai. If it's not needed for chutz lizmanai, because that's discussed back in Parshas Tzav, the long pasuk. So that's the rule. Whenever we have an extra pasuk which seems unnecessary, we apply it to where it's needed. Apply it to the case of chuslam kaima. So according to this approach, the first pasuk, the long one, is on psul number 1. It's going on chutz lizmanai. Whereas the short pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim is chuslam kaima. Umit rachmana rabbeinu Yisrael. Now we have a third pasuk. Yet a third pasuk. So Parshas Kedoshim. This is the next pasuk. This chorus for eating this. What's this? The Gemara is assuming it's nicer, which the Gemara will prove later. Nicer means flesh of the carbon basar, which actually physically stayed overnight or past its expiry time. If one eats that, there's nicer. So now we're dealing with 3 issues. Chusas mani, which is back in Parshas Kedoshim, in Parshas Tzav. Chuslam kaimi, which is the current pasuk here in Parshas Kedoshim. Then the next pasuk speaks about eating nicer, and there's kares. V'oichlav, only the one who eats nicer itself, avoy nayisa, gets kares. Limuti, as opposed to chuslam kaimi, as opposed to the item discussed in the previous pasuk, chuslam kaimi, there's no kares there. Well, ve'ema v'oichlav avoy nayisa is a chuslam kaimi. So that's the one who says that this third pasuk is about eating nicer. Maybe it's about eating chuslam kaima. And there's kares. And to exclude nicer from kares. No, mistavra, it's more probable that the third pasuk is nicer. It's more probable to establish it on the nicer. Lu'ukme b'kares, to apply kares to nicer. Why? Because that will enable us to also include and apply nicer to chutz lizmanai. By way of Exera Shava, it says Ovain here, Ovain there, or similar sounding words, which will give us a window into the status of the chutz lizmanai, i.e., that there's kares upon eating it. Otherwise, we're left in the air. We're not sure what the status of chutz lizmanai is. Maybe we can go to a different source, to Rashi says to basa, which is tamei, which doesn't have kares. It's going to be a confusing situation. So it's more probable that pasuk number 3 is on Naisar, tell you Karas by Naisar, which will now allow us to expand and also apply that to Chus Zmanai by way of Gzera Shava. Lemigmar Avon says Avon here and Avon there. Chus Zmanai, that even Chus Zmanai gets Karas. So the Damali Bizah, because in a way Chus Zmanai has two similarities to Karas, Zayin and Beis. They're both time-related issues. Naisar is where the flesh physically had, stayed past its expiry time, and Chus Zmanai is where he's thinking to do so. And also the Beis means Bama. Both are applicable even in a Bama. So during our different times in history, there was no Beis HaMikdash. You would bring a korban in a private altar, and the same issues of Naisar and Chus Zmanai would apply there too. So there are two similarities between these two items. So it makes more sense that pasuk number 3 is on the Karas of Naisar, which would allow us to apply it to the Chus Zmanai as well through the Gzera Shava. Hadarabah, just the opposite. Chuslam Kami Havalei Ukme B'Karas. Perhaps consider this approach. Pasuk number 3, which applies Karas to something, to X, is actually Chuslam Kami, which will now enable us to apply Karas to Chus Zmanai. The same argument we can make here. Lemigmar Avon Chus Zmanai, because we have Avon over here, we have Avon Chus Zmanai. Damalei b'migdash, because there are actually 4 commonalities between Chus Zmanai and Chus Kami. Mem Kuf Dalet Shin. Mem is Machshava. Chus Zmanai and Chus Kami are Machshava-related deficiencies. Kuf is Ktsas, even if you had in mind just regarding a small portion of the korban. Dalet is Dam, it happens during the Avodah of the Dam, and Shin is Shlishi. Because in both psukim, the one of Chus Zmanai and Chus Kami, it says the word Shlishi. Many similarities. So why don't you take this approach? Elam Rabbi Echanan. I'll tell you how we know that this third pasuk is on Naisar. Tani Zavdi Bar Levi. He presented as follows: Asya Kodesh Kodesh. We have another Gzera Shava through Kodesh Kodesh. Ksiv Hacha. Over here in the pasuk it says Kiyas Kodesh Hashem Chilel. Right. This is pasuk Ches. Right, in Kedoshim. He's Machal the Kodesh Hashem. Therefore, this Karas. So again, what is this? Uksiv Hasam. We have a pasuk elsewhere by Naisar, by actual Naisar. V'sarafta Naisar Beish. And it says Lo Yachal Ki Kodesh. So we connect the word Kodesh to each other. Malahala Naisar. Just as that pasuk is Naisar. Afkan Naisar here as well, it's Naisar. So we know Naisar gets the Karas. Done deal. And now the Torah excludes something in this pasuk. It says Va'ich only one who consumes this Naisar, but something else will not be liable to Karas. What's that something else that's being excluded? Only this one gets Karas, as opposed to Chuslam Kaimai, which gets no Karas. Which is discussed in the previous pasuk. So assumingly, when I'm being memayit something, only this and not that, that is what I just discussed a minute ago in the previous pasuk, which is Chuslam Kaimus. Now we know that Naisar gets Karas. And likewise, through Avin, we learned that Chus Zmanai gets Karas, but not Chuslam Kaimai. Ask the Gemara. Now you're making assumptions. We're assuming that the first pasuk, the long one back in Parshas Tzav, is going on Chus Zmanai. The shorter one in Parshas Kedoshim, Chuslam Kaimai. The third pasuk, which follows, is on Karas. And that's how you get your whole configuration. Who's to say the Kra Richa b'Chuslam Zmanai? The long one back in Parshas Tzav is on Chuslam Zmanai. V'shlishi the Parshas Kedoshim, the small one in Parshas Kedoshim is on Chuslam Kaimai. U'shlishi the Parshas Kedoshim too, Chuslam Kaimai, which allows you this whole configuration. If not, perhaps I'll switch it around. Perhaps the long pasuk back over there is Chuslam Kaimai, the short one is Chuslam Zmanai, and when the third pasuk by Neisser says only this and not that, perhaps the that is referring right back to chus zmani, which is no kares. So perhaps chus zmani is in, and chus zmani is out. No, mistaver, it's more probable that aricha, the long one back in Parshas Tzav, is in fact b'chus zmani. Why? The gomer of an minoiser, the damali b'zav, because this will allow him to connect to Neisser with that Gzeiro Shava oven, with its two similarities, Zayin and Beis, like we discussed, which would allow us to apply kares to Chus Zmani as well. Androv, just the opposite. Says the Gemara, perhaps turn the tables. Aricha b'chusam kaimai. Perhaps the long pasuk back in Parashas Tzav is chusam kaimai, and there's kares there. Ushlishi, the Kleshim Tiyu, b'chusam zmani, and the short pasuk in Kleshim Tiyu is in fact chusam zmani. And in fact, he's excluded from kares, discussed in the next pasuk there. And exactly because Mishum de Damile, because they're so similar to each other, Samche, he put them next to each other. He put Chus Zmani right next to the pasuk of Neisser, become Mile to exclude him. It's the opposite, because he's so similar, I would think, oh, he joins his ranks, shares the same fate. No, put him right next to him and say, this or not that. So perhaps Chus Zmani is in, and Chus Zmani is out. Elam Rava says, Rav, I'll tell you how it works. Kulu mikra richa asyan. Instead of, two psukim and no. Both psul number 1, psul number 2, chusam kaim chusman, they're both sourced in the same pasuk, the long pasuk back in Parshas Tzav. Kulu mikra richa asyan. The pasuk says, Achal ya achal. So he's basically going to break down the pasuk word by word, phrase by phrase. Pasuk says, "Ma'achal ya'achel." Double consumption. Which two types of consumption do we have? B'shnei achiles. B'shtei achiles. Hakasam adama. The Torah is talking about two types of consumptions. They both can play a role regarding these deficiencies, these machshavos. Echad achilas adam, ve'echad achilas mizbeach. Whether he's thinking about feeding the mizbeach, the appropriate material which belongs on the mizbeach, or consumption of the flesh by the kehanim or by the owners. So both elements are fundamental to the chus zmani and chus kaimai system. Pasuk continues, "Mibsar zevach shlama," the flesh of a shlamim. Why single out shlamim? What's unique about a shlamim? And how is that reflective of the whole pigul system? Says the more actually, Shlamim provides us with the framework, the outline of how pigul works. Because you see, by Shlamim we have two phases. There is the mater and the nitar. The avodah of the dam, Kabbalah, Hilach Hazrika, that's called the avodah of the mater. The blood, basically, through its proper processing and ultimately application of the mizbeach, enables the carbon to be consumed. The fats on the mizbeach, the flesh for the kehanim or the owners. So it's pretty much a two-phase, a two-step system. You have the mater, and then you have the recipient of the heter, the flesh, the fats. And only there can we have the concept of pigul. Because that's the way pigul works. While I'm preparing and processing the carbon to enable that to be eaten, I'm thinking about that which will be eaten. I'm thinking to eat it chus zmani or chusam kaimai, as opposed to a carbon which only has a single track, single phase. Let's say a certain menachos, a completely burnt mizbeach. There's no two parts. Well, this is enabling that. This is allowing that. So only by a carbon which is reminiscent of the shlamim model will pigul be applicable. Ma shlam, just like a shlam mefaglan, we have the mefaglan, we have the activity with the blood, with the dam, which the matir, which will now sort of fashion the rest of the carbon. Umispalgan, and by thinking pigul during the avodah of dam, that adversely impacts the rest of the carbon. Avkol mefaglan mispalgan, likewise. Pigul only applies when a carbon has both of these phases, both of these aspects. Pasuk continues with the word shlishi. Plan on doing it outside of its man. Leiratze. What does leiratze mean? So interestingly, the pasuk is using a lashon of ritze, which is typically a positive expression. Right? A properly processed carbon has ritzah. It atones. It generates goodwill by Hashem. So we learn, interestingly enough, that pigul also has to be done properly, so to speak, for it to become pigul. So it's either perfectly good or perfectly no good. But you have to finish the process either way. So, karatzas kosher, kenatzas pasal. We compare the psul of pigul and the process which generates pigul to the proper processing of an acceptable carbon, of a good carbon. How? Mahartzas kosher, just like regarding processing a proper carbon. The carbon only becomes kosher when you finish being makrib all the material. Like you explained before, the avoid of the dam is called the material. You have to finish the process. Until the zrika happens, it's not a proper carbon. Afartas, pasal likewise, on the flip side, a deviant carbon, a pigul carbon, only turns pigul, only attains that label called pigul, until all the material were properly processed. Meaning, let's say you had a machshav of pigul during the shechita, during the Kabbalah. Rashi says it's hanging, it's pending, awaiting the completion of that process. So only when the zrika happens does the pigul label get applied to the carbon. But if it's aborted midway, there's no pigul. The pasuk continues with the word hamakriv to tell us bakrova hu nifsal. Pigul relates to schemes and plans and intentions during the act of akrova. That makes it possible. We're not speaking about a carbon which was properly processed, benignly, without any deviant machshavas. Problem is, the flesh was physically left overnight. That doesn't make the carbon possible retroactively. I mean, the flesh is not possible, but the carbon is fine. The word oisoi in the pasuk tells us Zevachim. Deficiency relates to the carbon itself. It doesn't disqualify the kohen if he should have machshava pigul. Not a great thing to do. In fact, we learn later there's malchus, but he still remains a kohen. The word lo yechashev tells you lo ya'arvei machshavas acheres. You can't mix in other nefarious plans, other deficient thoughts. As we explained before, pigul has to be purely pigul without any other interferences. But should he mix in other machshavas? Let's say, he's also thinking shlei l'shmo, shlei b'mkoyim. That loses the pigul status. The word pigul in the pasuk. We already discussed the classic pigul of chosas manis. What's the word pigul coming to tell us? Zechostem kaimai. A different type of deviation. Chostem kaimai. Planned on processing the carbon, eating it outside of its allowable, domain. The word yeh teaches that melamed you can combine thoughts. So let's say he planned on eating half a kazayis outside the Mikdash and half a kazayis in a week's time. So you can't have pigul because it's not a full kazayis and chusas mani, but does the carbon become pasul? Yeah, you can combine two deficient thoughts to make it pasul. The words v'anefesh achelas mimenu tells you echad leishnayim, that avoyna tisa, which we learned relates to curse, only relates to one deficiency, not to both. Only to chusas mani, not to chusam kaimei. Which one is it? Chusas mani. The gomer aven min noisar, because we have the exer shava from noisar, that there's kares in both. The damali bezah, because it's similar to noisar in two respects, of zayin and beis, like we discussed earlier. Now comes one more shaila. Amalei Rav Papa Rav. So Rav was the one who presented this whole presentation, multiple sources, a source for chusas mani, chusam kaimei, with all its related halachas. So he had a question. According to you, that everything is learned from the long pasuk back in Parshas Tzav. So what about the short pasuk in Parshas Kedoshim? What's that for? Shlishi, the Parshas Kedoshim. What do you learn from that pasuk? That's needed for something else. An aspect to teach us, to clarify an aspect of chusam kaimei. I'm planning on doing it outside. Outside where? It's supposed to be burnt in the Azara. What if I have in mind to burn it in the Heichal? Is that called chusam kaimei? No. Only if you had in mind to burn it outside the Beis HaMikdash. Because that makom is a triple place. What does that mean? Rashi explains. When the Beis HaMikdash was not built, and we had bamais, altars, we had altars out there. So that place can theoretically accommodate 3 mitzvahs. You can apply the blood there, could burn the fats, and you can eat karbanis there too. So that's the halacha that the malkim that he's thinking when he's thinking chuslam kaimai outside here. I'm going there to bring the carbon to make chuslam kaimai. That malkim, that new place, has to be a qualifying place, a place which, at least in certain points in history, can accommodate these three activities: Adam, the basar, and the emurin, as opposed to the heichal, which is not a place that you bring emurin, not a place that you eat basar. So if you had a mind to process the carbon inside the heichal, it's not considered chuslam kaimai. That's what we learn from the pasuk. Shlishi has to be a triple place, a place that accommodates three activities. That's his drasha in the pasuk. L'makim, to tell you that the makim that he's thinking of has to be she'im mishulash, has to be a triple place. Badam, bebasar, emurin. Take a look at Kama. What do you need a new pasuk for that? That's already covered in the first pasuk in parshanut-torah-comment. Imachal yachal. Mida'afke rachmana b'lashon shlishi. Right, that first pasuk achal yachal continues with the words b'ema shlishi. And as we explained, the pasuk there is also covering chuslam kaimai. So the number 3 apparently is coming to tell you it has to be a triple place. So why do we need a new pasuk for that? Amar Rav Ashi, Amrisha l'shmaita k'mei Rav Masna. I presented this discussion to Rav Masna, and he answered me. Amarli, he told me like this. Amarli, imi hasam. If only from that first pasuk, I wouldn't necessarily know this triple halacha. How about I would think like this? Yeah, the word shlishi is a prat, is a limiting term. It has to be a triple location. But then the word pigel in that pasuk, which we explained is also talking about chuslam kaimai, is a more general term. It's not a limiting term. Pigel is any sort of chuslam kaimai. Klal, it's a general term. V'nasa klal, so this general term, which follows the limiting term, is ma'asav al prat. It's coming to add on the limitation to tell you v'shabu sharma kaimas, that perhaps any makom that has a mind works and constitutes chuslam kaimai. That's why we need a new pasuk in Pashas Kedosh, Kamash Malana, a new pasuk, which refers to the lashon shlishi, to tell you no, it's precise, it's exact, it's required. It has to be a makom which is mishulash, b'dam b'basar me'murin. Okay, let's leave it over here. We have basically 2 sugis today. We discussed the Ur Ha'alya. So regarding Tumah, we know Ur Ha'alya is Ka'alya Dam. What regarding, Karbanis? Karbanis factors. So the Kevesh, right, has its Alya on the Mizbech. What about the Ur Ha'alya? So some say yes, some say no. How do we explain the Mishnah? They planned on eating the Ur Ha'alya chuslam zmani. Why is that pigel? It's either because you can have a mind, even something which belongs on the Mizbeach, going to Rabbi Lazar, or you hold Ur Ha'alya is not part of the Alya regarding Haktar, or we speak about a goat whose tail is never on the Mizbeach. Then we had the sourcings of chuslam kaimai, chuslam zmani, several approaches, and the final approach was Rava. Everything is derived from that long pasuk in Parashat Tzav, which covers chuslam zmani and chuslam kaimai. And we explain why we also need the pasuk in Parashat Kedoshim. At the end of the day, when does kares apply? Only to Naisar, and by extension, through the oven Zera Shava, to chuslam zmani as well, but by chuslam kaimai, it's possible, but there's no kares. All the best to you, and hatzlacha Rabbah.